Nier is a pure action RPG in every sense of the word that's set in a post-apocalyptic world where a father is fighting to save his daughter from a mysterious disease known as the Black Scroll. Nier's story is dark, unpredictable, and isn't afraid to hit you where it hurts, with several mature themes and concepts that help propel it into one of the most memorable games you'll find on the PlayStation 3. When it comes to gameplay, you wield a variety of weapons such as single-handed swords, axes, and spears, coupled with an array of very powerful, visually stunning magic spells which can be used to annihilate the vast hordes of enemies that come your way. As with most action RPGs, you've got access to the typical host of abilities such as jumping, dodging, blocking, and powerful special attacks, which is bolstered by the huge number of weapons to collect, and getting to grips with the unique qualities of each is essential to carve a path forward. Furthermore, it's the delicate balance of juggling your melee attacks with your magic skills that truly form the basis of the combat system, and once you've got it down, you'll feel nigh on unstoppable. Now, what helps differentiate Nier from its contemporaries is the way in which customization and leveling up is handled in the game. You don't have traditional stat points to distribute, but you can customize your spells and your weapons in several ways by using money and special items known as words. Adding these items to a weapon will increase its damage or defensive qualities, allowing you to cater each option you have to your liking and playstyle. Simply put, Nier is one of the best games that I have ever played. It blows many other games out of the water in terms of story, has some solid and varied gameplay, and is an unforgettable if sad journey. If that sounds like something you're interested in, then don't hesitate picking this one up. Star Ocean is one of the longest running series when it comes to RPGs, with its roots reaching back all the way to the Super Nintendo. For those unfamiliar with the franchise, it all takes place in a universe that's very similar to the likes of Star Trek, but The Last Hope is a prequel to the other 3 Star Ocean titles, and it takes place long before any of those exist. The story opens at the dawn of human space exploration, and the protagonist, Edge Maverick, is one of the first humans to travel aboard a faster-than-light starship as you leave Earth wholly ignorant of the great universe on a mission of discovery. When it comes to gameplay, it's very clear that a lot of love and attention went into the battle system, and it really shows. The system will be familiar to anyone who has played a previous Star Ocean or any action RPGs such as the Tales series. Characters and enemies act in real time, performing attack combos, magic, and movement commands, and each of them has his or her own unique set of skills that can be freely switched between at any time, allowing you to take advantage of everything they all bring to the table. Whether you prefer to be up in the thick of it, slinging arrows or spells, or even a mix of the two, there will be a character to suit your playstyle. In the end, what we have here is an extremely enjoyable action RPG that goes well above many of the other games available on the PlayStation 3. The balance of action, the systems in play, and an enjoyable story to play through make it one of the best entries in the series, and with it now being available on modern consoles with an updated look and several positive changes to few of the negative aspects of the game, there's never been a better time than now to jump into one of the most enjoyable Star Ocean games out there. The Tales series is by far one of my favourite RPG franchises, and when it comes to the PlayStation 3, Exilia 2 has to be the best of the bunch. It picks up after the events of the first game and throws you into the shoes of Ludger as you descend into a world full of shady corporations and terrorists that are out to fulfill their evil schemes. On the gameplay front, if you've ever played a Tales game before, you'll know exactly what to expect, as it sees you travelling from town to town through fields and dungeons, upgrading your equipment with new pieces, and learning a wide variety of arts and skills for battle. The game is divided into about 16 main chapters, and you have several character quests for each of your party members which pad out the adventure in meaningful ways, as well as many jobs and side quests that you can take on to earn money for special or rare items. Of course, the real meat and potatoes is within combat, and this is where Exilia 2, much like many of the previous Tales games, shine. It all plays out in real time and allows you to perform a string of basic attacks that form combos, but what helps it excel, however, is the inclusion of special skills or arts that bring about a real sense of strategy to each encounter. While the minute-to-minute battles aren't exactly tricky to win, it's the boss fights that see the combat system come alive, and this is where something known as the weakness system comes into play. If you use elements that the enemy is weak against to attack, you can easily start a huge combo, and the more physical and magical elements you throw into that combo, the longer it will last, and the higher the damage multiplier will be. So using it to your advantage advantage is essential if you hope to make it to the end. With its gripping combat, intriguing narrative, and slamming soundtrack, Tales of Exillia 2 is a great action RPG to jump into, especially for longtime fans of the series. 3D Game Heroes is a highly unique action RPG that shares a striking resemblance with the early Zelda games. You take on the role of the hero as you're tasked with locating and securing several powerful orbs that have the ability to seal away a great evil that after hundreds of years has escaped its captivity and started wreaking havoc on the kingdom. On your journey, you will explore 6 temples with themes loosely based on the surrounding terrain, and much like Zelda, each temple will bestow the player with a new item, such as a boomerang, hookshot, bomb, and a magic wand that shoots fire. This simple setup slowly deals out new ways to approach the ever-increasing number of enemies that wander the land, and the several bosses that occupy each temple you visit. At this point, it all sounds like a carbon copy of Zelda, so what helps it stand out against its clear inspiration? First off is the humor. This is a very silly game that never takes itself seriously, and it's difficult not to have even a few cheap laughs at the awkward lines of dialogue you'll see. Secondly is the ability to upgrade your sword, and there's a few of them to collect, from your standard wooden sword to one resembling Excalibur, and even a giant fish you get to swing around. By visiting one of the many blacksmiths that litter the kingdom, you can upgrade your sword's length, width, strength, and much more, allowing you to develop your hero into a sizable threat. Visually, everything in the game is blocky and pixelated, though entirely 3D. Admittedly, a few characters and monsters are hard to make out, but it all works well for the game. You won't be blown away by the graphics, but they are certainly appealing in their own creative and unique way. If you're fond of the action RPGs of old, then 3D Game Heroes cooks up the perfect mix of both old and new, creating what is likely one of the best examples of the genre on the PlayStation 3. Originally planned to be an MMO, Kingdoms of Amalur would eventually be remodeled as a single-player action RPG that allows you to create your own character from scratch and set off in the hopes of bringing an end to a nigh-on endless war between 2 warring factions. As the main plot progresses, your puzzling past is slowly and cleverly unveiled through a nicely paced journey that's packed full of twists and turns that'll keep you guessing. Now, once you've created your character, you're free to roam the kingdom and take on a series of quests that have a nice amount of variety to them, as well as tackle a range of dungeons that'll test your understanding of the mechanics to the limit. As with most RPGs, there's a huge emphasis on classes that see you getting to choose from might, finesse, and sorcery. These are the same as fighter, rogue, and mage classes you may encounter in other games, with each of them coming with their own skill tree to develop. There's an insane amount of different skills to learn, which makes combat a true highlight of the experience, and relies upon the strategic use of your basic attacks as you mix them with the far more devastating skills at your disposal. And what bolsters this aspect of the gameplay is the customization that's afforded to the player. One great thing about this system is the fact that you don't have to think too hard about what you want to invest in, because you can completely wipe your slate clean and put your points into a different skill. This allows you to experiment with the enormous amount of options and eventually settle on what suits you the best. Simply put, Kingdoms of Amalur is an amazing game with great customization, gameplay, and a huge world waiting to be explored. So if you're looking to undertake a new adventure, this offers up a solid option to consider. First releasing way back in 2008 on the PlayStation 2, Odin Sphere is a remastered port that the developers claim is supposed to represent its original vision for the game. It all centers around the constant war between various factions of the world of Erion who are vying for the power left behind by an enigmatic kingdom which mysteriously disappeared overnight. You get to choose from 5 characters, each representing these different parties, and make your way through various stages that mix elements of both beat-em-ups and RPGs to create something truly special. All of the action takes place from a side-scrolling perspective and sees each of the characters you get to use all possessing their own unique traits and moves to get the job done. Moment to moment you'll be stringing together slashes, aerial juggles, slide kicks, and so forth until the screen is absolutely filled with flames and hit points, and it can become absolute mayhem, but thanks to the visceral depiction of the combat, every hit you make packs a real punch. By adding spells into the mix, you can further disrupt the enemy by spawning a volcano onto the battlefield or enclosing the region in a poisonous cloud. These special abilities carve out several ways for the player to approach each situation, and as you progress, more and more of them become available to use, so they are perfect to experiment with and slowly settle into a groove. Now, when talking about Odin's Sphere, there is one aspect that you simply cannot ignore, and that is the visuals. The sprite work is simply jaw-dropping, with plenty of different animations that bring each character to life, but just as impressive as that are the stages themselves, which blend in perfectly with the action and give the game a somewhat painting come to life aesthetic that looks incredible in motion. Overall, this is one action RPG you do not want to skip. Dragon's Dogma is often compared to the likes of Skyrim with the intricate combat of the Dark Souls series, as it manages to bring together many different ideas to create something completely unique that many fans of the genre will enjoy. You take up the fight as the Arisen, a hero of legend who is said to have come into contact with a dragon and had his heart stolen. Somehow you survive the encounter, and now you have to track it down and reclaim what is yours. To be fair, the story isn't exactly anything groundbreaking, and only really picks up towards the end of the game, but this in no way detracts from the gameplay, and this is where Dragon's Dogma comes into its own. Combat is a generous mix of traditional real-time action and management of abilities, and after an extensive character creation process at the start of the game, you'll be forced to pick from one of three classes: Strider, Mage and Fighter. Each class or vocation offers a unique set of skills and playstyles that is most definitely going to suit anyone's approach. But combat is more than just hitting something with a sword or firing an arrow, and revolves around using a grappling hook to tackle larger-than-life enemies. It's a lot like Shadow of the Colossus, with all of the classes being able to grab onto a creature and scale it to attack specific weak spots, but obviously some are better at it than others. Further enhancing the combat is the concept of pawns. A pawn's effectiveness is mainly determined by how well their creator sets them up, and there are several key factors involved in determining their effectiveness, like stats, level, special abilities and equipment. Utilizing these pawns in your party is essential for tackling some of the more powerful enemies that roam the world, and easily becomes one of the game's most intriguing aspects. Though not without a few technical flaws, Dragon's Dogma is a brilliant game that will manage to captivate and enthrall anyone willing to put the time in. Dragon Age Inquisition was a game that had a lot riding on it, especially after the various missteps with the previous games in the series. Many were hoping that it would be a return to form, following a somewhat troubling development period due to the at the time new Frostbite engine. Inquisition managed to deliver, not only with a great story and characters, but several new gameplay mechanics that enhanced the experience. Following a series of mysterious rifts opening up around the world, it's down to you and your unique talent to close them that sets off an adventure across two massive continents, absolutely brimming with quests to undertake and plenty of secrets to find. Now, the fighting system is fairly fluid and enjoyable, combining the greatest elements of Dragon Age Origins and Dragon Age 2. It brings back the tactical view, which adds even more strategy to combat and allows players to pause at any time during a battle and move about the battlefield to give orders or see how various opponents or party members are doing, along with all the coverage and command that Dragon Age Origins offered on the PC. This makes combat the most engaging part of the experience, and with the amount of skills and ways to advance your character, it's easily the most rewarding as well. Although the game isn't perfect, which is mainly due to its visual makeup not exactly hitting the mark, and especially the frame rate, which at times can chug along once the action on screen amps up, it's nothing that completely ruins the game, and with it also being available on the PS4 with many of these issues ironed out, it's still a compelling adventure regardless of the console you decide to play it on. Folklore is without a doubt one of the most underrated action RPGs of all time. It puts you into the shoes of Keats and Ellen as they visit a mysterious village known as Dulin that is rumoured to house a way to travel between the worlds of the living and the dead. Now, the narrative is by far one of the most intriguing aspects of the game, so I don't want to go into it too much, and instead I'll leave that up to your own discovery. Thankfully, the gameplay is just as compelling, which sees you during the daylight hours moving your character around the desolate village of Dulin and talking with the various shady inhabitants to unravel the mysteries of the Neverworld. During the nighttime, you get to travel to this space, and in this realm, you must battle against creatures known as folks, with the goal being to defeat them and then use their unique abilities in battle for yourself. They mainly serve as a means to protect yourself in battle, which all plays out in real time, with each of them being assigned to one of the face buttons. There's at least 100 of these critters to collect, each with their own unique traits and advantages, and the combinations you can come up with are almost endless, which helps keep combat from from ever feeling repetitive. Whilst it's not one of the best looking games on the PlayStation 3, Folklore is by far one of the most artistic and imaginative games you'll find on the system. The various realms that make up the adventure are highly impressive, from the lush greenery of the fairy realm to the burnt out war-torn cities of Warcadia. There's a serious amount of creativity in each of their designs that lends the game a real sense of wonder as you make your way through it to the end. Overall, if there was one game you should definitely take the time to experience on this list, then Folklore is a no-brainer. With its incredible story and compelling gameplay mechanics, it will not disappoint. Demon's Souls is set in the world of Boletaria, a large land of endless natural beauty and impressive landmarks. After its king performs a dark ritual to harness the power of souls, a brief golden age descends upon the kingdom, but it's not long until an ancient evil is awakened because of it, and a fog brings in soul-devouring demons that start to feed on the land's inhabitants. Though the world building is very extensive, the story's involvement in the game is actually quite slim, and instead the main focus is on what Demon's Souls gets so right, and that's the gameplay. At its core, the game is a typical hack and slash RPG, where the goal is to slay large enemies to finish each level. However, it's not as simple as that when you start to look closer. When you start the game and get through the character creator, you can choose a special class. This will determine what equipment you were given at the start, along with your base stats. From there, you are pretty much free to progress as you wish. You can focus on magic, brute strength, speed or ranged attacks, and the variety of weapons, spells, armor and other equipment is absolutely staggering. The soul system is another factor of the game that provides a difficulty boost. Souls are both the currency and experience points of the game. All things are bought with Demon's Souls, and leveling up various stats also requires them. Now, difficulty is a huge part of Demon's Souls, and there's no beating around the bush. This game is going to kick your ass, but it never once feels like the fault of the game itself, but rather a lack of skill on behalf of the player. This constant need to improve is what underpins the entire experience, and once you've got it down, slaying each demon is something that just never gets old. If you never got around to this one back on the PlayStation 3, there's now a full remake for the PS5 if you're lucky to own that console. Well, that does it for today's video. Keep an eye out for part 2 as that will be coming up soon, so don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell to get notified about new videos which release every Monday and Thursday. You can follow me on all of the socials which are linked below to stay up to date, and also join my growing community on Discord to meet many like-minded gamers to continue the conversation with. I'd like to give a special shout out to my Patreon supporters Rhino, Skilljim, Shuden, Richard, Amy, Daniel, Dio, Omar, Strider, Pierre, Carl, Awesome Jacket Dude, Maximus, Scott, Alfred, Terry, Ryan, Alex, GameCube Galaxy, Curse Salaryman, Fake, Elihu and Paddy J for their continued support that helps make these videos possible. If you're interested in joining my Discord or supporting the channel through Patreon, you'll find all of these links down below. As always, thanks for taking the time to check the video out. I'll catch you next time.